you got to abide by the Geneva Conventions. You got to do this, this, and this.
Nope.
Again, you can debate the morality of that all day long, but the reality of it is, we're basically fighting goat farmers who, are giving us a hard time, plain and simple, because they have no rules. A cohesive warfighting unit that doesn't identify any of those things, that doesn't separate out each other based on any of those things. They all gel as one unit and go and fuck it up. To focus on that diversity piece causes problems. And I think that's why, at least from my perspective, if you look at the 8 years that Obama was in office, I think our society took several steps back in terms of race relations and focusing on problems that were self-grandizing in terms of they created themselves and actually made problems worse because there was such a heavy focus on things that maybe historically were worse, but now like assuming that it's the same as it was in 1963, and it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
So when you put all those things together, I mean that's why you see the military being, I would say, a shell of what it was even 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Do you think that can flip back? The pendulum can swing back on that?
For sure it can. But to your point earlier on about it's going to take that huge punch in the dick, it's going to take a catastrophic ass whooping for us to abandon those ridiculous policies. Right now we can get away with it because of technology and the fact that, look, the reality is even in Afghanistan and Iraq, they were hardened fighters, they were motivated, but in terms of a legitimate fighting force, it's laughable by comparison. Now, if you put us up against, I wouldn't use Russia because I think the paper tiger aspect of their military has been exposed pretty significantly of them in Ukraine, and they're nowhere near as competent or significant as I think the entire world thought. Hats off to them for doing a good job at making everybody think that they were more dangerous than they were. China, on the other hand, is a whole nother fucking ball game. And if we had to go to war with China right now, I think that they would absolutely fucking destroy us.
Really?
I really do.
Their military?
I think so, yeah. Because, one, if you look at whether it's campaigns on TikTok of what they allow their kids to see, if you look at what their recruiting goals in terms of the angle that they choose as compared to ours, and then what their government is willing to do, I'm not saying it's even right, but the Chinese government is willing to do pretty much fucking anything to gain an advantage, to get the upper hand, and or to dominate and win in any excursion that they may possibly think that they're going to be a part of, and we don't, So, and I think if you look at the kind of the overall average of what an American soldier is versus a Chinese soldier at this point, I think in many ways, the Chinese soldier is going to be in better shape, probably better funded. That's debatable by anybody. But the biggest thing is that their government is going to let them do whatever the fuck they need to do to win, and ours won't.
How big is their? But we should Google that. I don't expect you to know. How big is China's military?
I mean, their budget still is not what ours is, but at this point, it's not even about money. Again, all the money in the world, if you have feckless leaders who are spineless and don't let you go be a fucking badass, doesn't matter how much money you have.
Yeah. All right. So 2.8 million soldiers, sailors, and airmen, twice the American number. All right. That's a little scary. The one thing, I brought this up with Sean, I think, on the podcast when he was here, but the one thing I do like is that when you look around the world, they don't have a lot of military bases. They've bought a lot of ports and stuff like that for trade with all the shit they're doing, basically putting countries in debt to them. So, other things may be coming. But we do have, our military bases are literally, you pull it up on a map, boom, 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 everywhere.
Well, I would say search submarines, ships, and fighter jets for the China-American comparison, because to me at this point, that's really what matters more. Really starting with World War II, and it's just gotten progressively more important to own the water, under the water, and the air. Troops are important, and you have to have a certain number of ass to be able to follow through and take ground and hold it. But
well, here you go. Unless you just pulled this up for you. The Pentagon's 2023 China military power report said China's Navy had about 370 warships, with the fleet expected to grow to 395 by 2025 and 435 by 2030. The current U.S. fleet is smaller with more than 280 vessels. The Secretary of the Navy expects to reach 300 in the early 2030s. So they're ahead of us there.
Yeah, so they already have almost 100 more warships. Now, submarines, nukes, fighter jets, you're going to see similar numbers, is that they're ahead of us now at this point. And especially with technology being what it is, there's two things. One, fighter jets, submarines, and fighter jets and ships, I would say, aren't necessarily interchangeable, but there's a huge component to that. To your point with bases, all the bases in the world don't matter if you're going against an opponent who has 100 more ships than you that have planes on all of them and troops that they can put them wherever the fuck they want, as fast as they want. And while they're doing it, they also design, own, manufacture, and control all of the electronics components that we use to navigate, that we use to communicate. So, I mean, just fucking think about that for a minute. China would fucking destroy us right now. And their numbers are bigger in every way. But again, like the fact, take Afghanistan and Iraq, like did the Taliban or ISIS have any rules? Fuck no, they didn't. That's a big part of why they were so difficult to deal with. They don't have a government saying, hey, you can't do that. Hey, when you capture this person, you got to abide by the Geneva Conventions. You got to do this, this, and this.
Nope.
Again, you can debate the morality of that all day long, but the reality of it is, we're basically fighting fucking goat farmers who, are giving us a hard fucking time, plain and simple, because they have no rules.
Hey guys, if you have a second, please be sure to share this episode around on social media and with your friends, whether it's Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, doesn't matter. It's all a huge help. It gets new eyeballs on the show, and it allows us to grow and survive. So thank you to all of you who have already been doing that, and thank you to all of you who are going to do so now.
They have no uniforms, they have no rules, they have nobody to hold them accountable, and we have people breathing down our back trying to throw our guys in fucking prison for making a split-second snap judgment on, fuck, I thought he was armed, I didn't, whatever. Right. It's dark, a fucking grenade just went off, and this dude, is coming at me with a machete, and I fucking shot him. Well, he didn't have a gun, so we're going to throw you in jail. Like, again, even if we had bigger numbers and more money and everything, when you have a government who's constraining you to that degree, like if you don't think for 1 second that every fucking guy, when he's over there doing those things, that's not in the back of his mind of saying, dude, what's worse than, like what's as bad or in some cases worse than not coming home, being labeled a fucking war criminal and being thrown in prison for the rest of my life for doing a job that you fuckwads sent me over here to do and now are telling me to use kid gloves. It's a terrible scenario. And so when you combine all of those things together, we're in a bit of a shit sandwich with China, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So completely agree on that last point right there, as far as the ability of our guys to do their job being called into question. It's like, this is one of those, it's between like a shit and a fart. You feel fucked either way. Like you are, on the one hand, it's like, well, the enemy doesn't have any rules, so therefore we don't need to have rules either, and you can go bad, right? The other way is, well, we're better, so we're going to set the example, but the enemy doesn't fucking care. They're going to use it against you. Yeah. I mean, China uses, another thing they do is they use our democracy against us, similarly to what I was talking about with lobbying, where, in China, if you have an opinion they don't like, you're never seen again, right? Because they don't have good rules. They have bad, shitty communist government rules. In America, you can scream whatever you want as long as you're not taking death threats to like the president or something like that. You're going to be good in most cases. Yeah. So maybe in China, for example, they can do something like, oh, let's have no free speech for our kids. TikTok's going to turn off at 9 p.m. and they're only going to watch nature and science videos while it's on. And then, but in America, we're going to make sure they just see titties all the time. Yeah. Right. And it's on all day, all night, whatever. Yeah. So they're using our freedom to then get an advantage like generationally ahead of us, no?
For sure. Yeah. And to me, to be clear, like I'm not saying that we should model ourselves after the Taliban, ISIS, or China, but to me, again, going back to one of our earlier topics of when to get involved or not, is that, that's what dictates that, is that you're saying, we're not going to just go because, well, this guy's a tyrant and he's fucking his people up. We're going to go because we have to, because we can't not do it. So if we are going to go, is that, just like with, say, Border Patrol, is that like politicians dictating Border Patrol policy is absurd. Ask them, just say, hey, I want you to shut the border down. You guys are the experts. You figure it out. Hey, here is our goal is that this is taking place. We need you, the U.S. military, to go over and stop it. You guys are the experts. You decide how to make that happen. And I think the American people are still good enough. Yes, there are bad apples in every fucking facet of society. However, there's not groups of them that are all together. And from every experience I've had in the military, like there were some guys that were a little more cowboy than others. But when you have a group of dudes who all, have fucking morals and were raised generally right, the sum total of what's being done is generally just. Do guys get carried away? Of course they do. But again, to me, if you're saying go over there and completely disembowel this enemy, there's nothing fucking great about that. It's going to be horrible, and that's why you only do it if it's absolutely fucking necessary. But if it is, then you have to make that example of saying that doesn't mean you need to rape women and children and set people on fire. But combatants are fucking combatants,
Yes.
And they get no fucking quarter, period. And so like to me that's step one. There's a right way to do it, but the right way to do it is to ensure that you have mission success, that you completely eliminate that threat or enemy, and that one, it makes them say, wish we hadn't done that. We're not going to fuck with that again. And every country that's thinking, maybe I'll try the United States, they see that and they say, we're not going to fuck with that one.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.